Well, hey friends, Pastor Mark here again. You're kind of catching me after church on a Sunday. Got my preaching clothes on again, but again, not usually what I wear when I'm working on my motorcycle. But I haven't given you an update for, golly, it's been almost a month. It's Advent season at the church, which makes it kind of busy time at the preacher's house. So as we're getting ready for Christmas, I haven't been doing a whole lot on the motorcycle project, but mostly just waiting on parts to come in, and of course with all the Christmas shopping and stuff like that, getting stuff delivered takes a little bit longer this time of year. So things have been kind of slow on the project right now. In January, I'm going to be taking some time off, and I'm hoping to get a little bit more done during January on the GSX1100 project. But the main thing that I've done just lately was last weekend pulled the bike in the garage and just took the exhaust off and the chain off so that I can get some easier access to some things. And I'm going to probably be replacing both of those. I'll show you a little tool that I have called the chain breaker tool that you can use to replace your motorcycle chain if you have a rivet style. The chain that I actually have on this bike has a little safety clip on it rather than a rivet, but I figured I'd go ahead and show you how to use that rivet tool since I'm kind of doing this for anybody that just wants to know how to do these things and is interested in it. I just figured I'd go ahead and share it with you. So I'll show you a little bit about that. Show you how I took the exhaust off and some things I found when I took that exhaust off. But I guess the biggest thing I can tell you is that actually my seat pan came. So this is going to be the tail section for the bike. This came in the mail this week. It's made out of fiberglass. And so hopefully I'll be able to do some modifications on the frame and put a hoop on the back that fits this curve and work on getting this seat mounted and doing some welding on the frame in the next couple of weeks to kind of get some mock-ups with the tank and the tail. You can kind of see what the bike's going to look like after that. But anyway, I'll just go ahead and move forward to showing you taking the exhaust off and the chain off, and then check in with you a little bit later about what's ahead for the build. Thanks, everyone. So to take the exhaust off this bike, it's pretty simple. There's just a bolt here that you see that is part of a bracket that doubles as the bolt that holds the passenger peg on the back there, and also as a hanger for the exhaust. So I sped it up because you don't need to spend 3 minutes watching me unscrew a bolt. I think you pretty much know how to unscrew a bolt if you're taking on a project like this. But it's pretty simple for the back part. You just take that bolt out there, and then in just a second we'll have a view of the front of the engine. There it is. Each one of these exhaust manifolds has two bolts on it with a little clamp that holds it down, and so it's just a matter of taking each of those bolts out. And again, I fast forwarded it because nobody needs to watch 5 minutes of me undoing bolts. Anyway, I don't usually ratchet that fast, but anyway, you can see that the bolts come out fairly easy on this bike, although I did find on the other side, the number 4 cylinder, that one of the bolts snapped and was pretty fused in there, so I'll talk to you in a minute about that. But you can see how these bolts each come out, and there's 4 of them in there. Or excuse me, 2 on each one of the 4 exhaust manifolds. And once you get those off, you might have to hit it with a rubber mallet or something to kind of get it loose since they've been in there for a while. But it should come out pretty easy from that point on. So it's not too complicated of a process to get the exhaust off this motorcycle. I will add that there are a couple little pieces inside there that help clamp the that little flange on the outside and help kind of push the exhaust tight into the exhaust port on the engine. And so you want to make sure that you don't lose those, because when you put this exhaust back on, you're going to want to make sure that that exhaust is in there nice and tight. But like I said, it's a pretty easy process. It's just taking 4 bolts out and releasing them, and then pulling that manifold out. one of the problems you find when you're working on old motorcycles. So this is the original exhaust that you just saw me take off. This right side exhaust, I think actually is kind of a Frankenstein exhaust. I'm not sure that this actual exhaust manifold that came off of the I think it's the number 4 cylinder all the way over on the right. I don't think that's the original one to this motorcycle, but I could be wrong. It was wedged in there pretty tight, and in fact, I'll show you in a second, there's a bolt that sheared off that I'm going to have to get out of the head, which is always an adventure. I'll film that, and I'll edit out all the cussing and swearing that happens when I have to get a broken bolt out of an engine block. But anyway, I'll show you that. But what I see here is this has kind of rusted and cracked. You can see right here, there's a pretty big opening there. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet. I might see if there's enough good metal there to weld it back together, since this exhaust is actually in pretty good shape. But I would kind of like to go with a more modern exhaust on this bike, so it might be that that's not really an issue, and the only part that I'm really going to keep is the this manifold that comes out of the exhaust port on the engine. So that's just another problem I'll have to sort through as I'm working on the bike. So here's this right side cylinder where the exhaust came out. You can see right here, touching with my finger right there, that's the bolt that broke off. There's enough sticking out there that I think I'll probably try to just heat it up with either a torch or the hot air gun that I have, and see if I can get a vice grip on it and see if I can get enough bite to maybe get that out of there, and I won't have to drill it out, which would be nice. So when I get to that, I'm not going to do it today, but when I get to that, I'll show you my progress of getting that out. But the other ports came out pretty easy. This one was wedged in there pretty good. I'm not quite sure why it was so difficult to get out of there, but as I get into the engine a little bit more, maybe I'll discover why this one was so tight. So anyway, there it is. So since I'm going to be putting a new chain on this motorcycle, the one that I'm putting on actually has, to fasten the chain, has a master link and a clip that goes on the outside. I usually, so like for my Super Duke and bikes that I'm going to be maybe taking to the track or riding especially hard, I usually don't like the clip style. The clip, and I'll show you when I put the chain on later in a few weeks when I get to that point. But the clip is just a kind of like a paper clip kind of spring clip that clips through the rivet on the chain, and it fits in a little groove, and it keeps the rivet from popping out. I'm sure they're plenty strong, and I've just always been a little bit nervous that if I'm yanking on that chain pretty hard, accelerating out of the apex of a turn or something, and if that clip snaps and my chain lets loose, it could be a world of hurt on a bike that I'm, at the track leaned over on or something like that. For this bike, I'm not really planning on riding it that style or that hard. And to be honest, I'm not sure if the suspension on this bike could handle that kind of riding anyway. What I'll do is, this is a little chain breaker tool, and what it does is it's, I'll show you how I use it here in just a few minutes when I take the chain off. But this one is a cheap one. I think it was less than $10 at Harbor Freight. It is not made to use a number of times. You can also see it's already kind of starting to crack. I have another one that I bought. I bought 2 of them at a time because they are cheap little tools that in my mind are pretty disposable. If you want, you can go on Amazon and you can buy a $200 set of chain breaker, and it has a rivet molding tool on it too, so that you can bend that rivet over when you put it back in to lock your chain in. I do this so rarely, maybe once or twice a year, that spending $10 on this tool for it to be kind of disposable, I'd have to do it 20 times to pay for a $200 a tool like that. So this is what I use. It's just a little cheap Harbor Freight tool. It works. It does what it's supposed to do. If this one breaks, I've got another one up in the counter. This one I've used. I think the last time I used this was 5 years ago on another bike that I was putting a chain on. So anyway, I'll give you kind of a quick tutorial about how that works here in just a minute. So here's how this works. So you can see you clamp this over the pin of the chain, this little U-clamp thing here. It's got a little handle to hold on to. You screw this piece in till it's relatively tight. And then there's let's see if I can get you, there's this little pin that's going to go inside there. And then there's a little spring that you can put on it that is kind of keeps it from getting wedged in there. But you put this inside there, and then you take this other screw that's going to fit inside there, and you screw that down, and it's going to drive that little pin through that chain, and it's going to knock the pin, one of these little pins right here that's holding the links together, it's going to knock that out through the other side in theory. And so anyway, that's what's going to happen. And then once that pin comes out, you take the clamp off it and the chain is loose, and you can just roll it off of the wheel. So since this chain does have a clip on it, rather than using that chain breaker tool, I'm just going to use my screwdriver here and my trusty rubber mallet, and just give that clip a few little taps with the mallet, and in just a minute it'll just pop off right there on the end, and then I can just pull that master link out and roll the chain right off of the sprocket. So that's kind of the work I've done on the bike this week. Just a quick little tutorial on how to get the exhaust off of this particular model, and how to use a chain breaker tool and get that clip off if you want to replace the chain on this particular model as well. I figured I'd finish this episode with just a picture of what this bike originally looked like, so we can kind of see where we've come from and see the progress that we've made so far. But that's kind of it for this week. Hoping to load up some more videos as I start working on getting that tail section fitted and mounted like it's supposed to, and get some other work done. Might be doing some suspension work with the shocks this next week, so keep looking forward to next episode as I keep making progress on finishing the project. Thanks so much for tuning in, friends.